Good morning. Well, I guess it's good afternoon. It's noon on Friday, and happy Friday. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm gonna try to keep looking up here because that's where my camera is. I look down here because that's where my monitor is, and it looks a little bit weird. But thanks very much for coming in today because it's gonna be a lot of fun. Um, we've got it's 6 questions, but 6 really fun questions that people sent in, and I had a chance to read through and some of them I answered back already. So if you read maybe the comments or something like that this week, you maybe even seen some of these answers. But I think going into them is going to be a lot of fun because these kind of things are how I build or how I think about building or the materials I use or why I've made this choice over that choice. And hopefully some of that's going to be really interesting to you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But I got some folks that are on here. Paul, hello. Thanks very much for coming in. I really appreciate it. Lots of times Paul's the first one here. So thanks very much, Paul. And First Last is here. Hello. Thanks very much for coming in. And he's like right in front of the airbrush booth. So he's going to be playing. So that's great. I'm really happy about that. That's fun. Scott is here. Hello, Scott. I really appreciate it. This week is the third week of the month. And on the third week of the month, I don't have a group build on Friday night. That's typically my patrons have a group build on Friday night. But on the third week of the month, I do it on Sunday, and it's 3 hours, and I do a demo. So I'm going to be talking about that today. I think it's going to be kind of fun to talk about demos and what I'm going to do there. And every once in a while, I have the opportunity to invite someone into that. So it's only for paid patron members, but I think it's fun to invite someone to come in. And this month, I'm asking Scott. So I don't want to put you on the spot, Scott, but I hope you can make it. If not, I understand if you have some other stuff going on, but I hope you can make it. And I hope to invite other people in following months. Each month we do this on the third Sunday of the month. It is 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Sunday. So like right now it's in the middle of football season, but I can't watch my football team because they're not in the playoffs this year. So, but that's okay. I still love watching my football. But then we model, we talk, and like I say, I do a live demo. So thank you very much. Hobby Art is here. Thank you so much for coming in. And I want to say it is pronounced Hobby Arte. Is that correct, Christian? Because I love the name, and I'm really happy you're here. We also need to do a scheduling for our group because I have a bunch of other folks that I interface with and talk to. Interface, what a horrible word, interface. I'm not interfacing with anyone. Thank you very much. We're talking and we're enjoying each other's company, and then we're trying to pass information back and forth in these different groups that I'm a part of. And Christian's in one of them, and it's wonderful because we're talking about growing our YouTube channel and things like that. And it's really stimulating because we come from different backgrounds, but Christian, I've shown his things on here before, and an amazing painter, amazing builder, just fantastic. And I'm learning from Christian, and I'm hoping I can give something positive to Christian in our exchange and stuff like that. So stuff like that is really fun. You're talking to people and stuff. So totally to the side. But if you haven't, maybe, these days it's a little bit more where we stay home a lot. We don't necessarily get out as much. I know I don't. I'm getting a little older. Maybe that's part of it. But I think also just there's this stuff's going on. It's nice to create these little meetings. It's really wonderful to be able to speak to people, and you can meet them online. You can meet wonderful people online because the algorithm, people talk about the algorithm, about YouTube and all these social media things, but one of the things it does is it concentrates things that you like and puts them on the screen for you to see. So the chances are that if you meet somebody looking at something that you're very passionate about, they're going to have at least a passing interest in that. and quite possibly a very deep understanding of that subject matter, possibly things that you're super interested in and things like that. And I've always been very willing to kind of break into those conversations. If you look at my communications with people that comment and things like that in the my videos and things like that I post, I'm very interested in talking to people. It's very fun for me. I enjoy it very much because I receive, number one, a lot of positive energy, but I'm really trying to give it back. You know what I mean? I'm not like a helpline. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the conversations that I have online with people that I've never had the opportunity to meet, because of this thing in the background that's operating all the time, seeing what we like and trying to understand it, and then put that information in front of you, is a really ripe area for finding people with like interests. And I think that's a very neat thing. I think that it's something that maybe people don't talk about a lot. I think we all kind of know it, but until sometimes you really get out there and think about something, you're just like, meh, that's kind of interesting, but think about it. When you're looking at something that you're really passionate about, the people in those comments are really passionate about that too. And so you can make those connections. So anyway, I really have enjoyed it. I think it's been a really wonderful thing in how we're doing things online now, and how we're doing a lot of things at home, and we have communities online. And I'm just diving into it because I've met so many wonderful people. I can be in my environment, my home, and doing my crafts, and they can do the same, and we can talk about the same things. It's awesome. So anyway, I don't know why I go off on these tangents, but I really think there's some value in them, and I think you may be able to enjoy if you look into it, see what you think. Okay, I've been yammering, and I need to be looking at this. So I got I'm trying to just see what messages that I missed. Hobby. Okay, so we talked to Christian. Thank you very much, Christian. You just launched that whole thing, and so see, that's what community can do. Scott would love to be part of that. Looking forward to it. Wonderful, Scott. I'm so glad you can make it. Scott has been on before. We've done, face-to-face things together. And that's the other thing that's really cool about these group meetings. They are face-to-face. You are online with me. It's not just me yammering. I do that enough. It's you get to talk and express and show your stuff. That's the other thing. On those, I really want you to bring your project. And look, I'm a project person. I am full on into dioramas, but I'm also full on into woodworking. I'm also full on into just crafting fun things. So if you don't have a model that you're working on, you could be writing a poem. Bring it. Gee, we'll talk about it. That is fun because it's creation. It's you're creating something with your experiences, and then you're giving it to people, and it's just really fun. Anyway, so online communities are real and they're awesome, and I would love you to be part of it. Hello from Sweden. Hello, Dollbase. Thank you very much. I have seen you in comments. Thank you so much for coming in. That is wonderful. And look, if you have a passion, if you have a website and stuff like that, post it. Or I don't know about posting. Anyway, we want to know about it. So you can comment to me and then I can post it or whatever, because that's one of the things I'm going to do today is in going through questions and going through people's responses and stuff like that for my request for questions for today for the Q&A. I also want to show you some of the things that I'm really excited about right now. Some of the websites, and they're quite diverse. None of them has anything to do about dioramas or model building, but I think that is part of what shapes us and gives us those ideas, because some of the things we're going to talk about today is keeping your mojo. That's a big topic, right? When you're in the middle of a project and maybe it's a long project. I do 9 months. That was my last project. And heck, the project I've been working on now, I started in May. Started in May. So it's going on forever. How do you keep that motivation? And something else to discuss there is what if you just fall in love with the project and you slow yourself down? This is a fun subject. And so we're going to talk all about that. Some motivators to keep you going, some ladders to get you out of ruts or holes that you dig yourself into. We're going to talk about all that today, and I'm really excited about it. Christian says, I'm in. Let me know when I can be there. Yeah, and we got to figure that out, Christian, just whenever. I think I'm thinking of Sunday. But yeah, and I want to invite John and stuff too. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. Miniatures of Small Scale, hello, and I saw you earlier. Hello again, still from Sweden with the right channel. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming in. And I saw your channel earlier. Very cool channel. Thank you very much. Mark is here. Hello, Mark. It's great to see you. I'm glad you could make it today. Have you been modeling? I want to see some of that, because when we met last Friday, you were cranking. You were just really going. You were like working on 3 different projects. That's really cool. So, okay, folks, why don't we get into this? Hey, Stephen is here. Hello, Stephen. Stephen is also a member. Thank you very, very much, Stephen, for coming in. That's wonderful. Miniature Small Scale. I got 2 relevant YouTube channels, Doll Base Info and Miniatures in Small Scale. Folks, go check them out. That's one of the things that's really fun. When I meet somebody online, it's really neat to see, number one, what they do. You know, it's really fun. What their interests are, because all of that is reflected in their channels. And then also kind of where they're at in their journey. I mean, look, I've been doing this for 4 years now, and I really enjoy it. This is episode 94. You know, so we're coming up on 100 here pretty quick. I think it's 94. Heck, I don't know. Yeah, 94. And it is really something that, and this goes with the other question about, you know, losing your mojo or keeping going on something, or what do you do when you just kind of get bogged down in a project? I think anything is like that, you know, and we face those things. What keeps me going is seeing other people that are where I was, because I know they can get past it. I did. And it's also seeing people that are where I want to go, because I know they got past where I'm at. They did it, and I know I can too. So that's, you know, that's a philosophy I've had for a long, long time in business. I was in software for years. Any time an operational issue would come up, a delivery issue would come up, a problem in the fulfillment of your product, right? When I thought about those problems, I always said, look, somebody has solved this issue. You know, somebody had this problem just like us. You know, business has been around for a little while now. There's a solution out there. So we just need to find it. So that kind of calms everybody down. You know, it's like, look, we just have to find the solution. It's not dire. It means we need to look further, and we need to find that solution. So that's the wonderful thing that's available to you now, is if you do have questions, if you do have something that you need a solution to, you can find just about anything out there. So anyway, I hope that little, see, I go off on things, but I hope that was okay. Making progress, still got too many kits going. I like that too many kits thing, really, because that is one of the things that you can do to get beyond these issues. So I think we need to jump into some questions here pretty quick. But yeah, I think that's really, really part of it is finding places and maybe even preparing before and going into a project when you know this happens, because I think it happens to all of us, that you have like a backup plan to take care of that bogged down feeling. But let's get into our questions, because I think a lot of these are going to be answered, and we're going to have a great time with it. Hello, happy Friday, everyone. John, thank you so much for coming in. John is a longtime member, longtime person, great friend. He's been around here for forever, and I really appreciate you coming on. And great perspectives and stuff like that. Ethan, oh my goodness, just popping in to say hi, Bill. Ethan is an old colleague of mine. Great guy. Are you on the West Coast now, Ethan? Because you were on the East Coast. But it's so wonderful for you to come in. Thank you so much. And I hope you're well. I hope the family's good. Hope business is cranking, and you're having a wonderful time. Ethan, I've known Ethan for years, and we used to work together at the software company. So thank you very much for coming in, Ethan. That's really cool. So let's dive in, because we have like these 6 questions. It doesn't six. Knock it out. No, bunch of stuff that we're going to look at, and I think it's going to be really important to try to find some solutions that are not just my solutions, but if you have solutions for this too, let's talk about it. I'd love to see it. And Ethan says he's still in Florida. Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you had kind of migrated to the West Coast or westerly, but I'm glad you're good and glad you're still there. First question. Are you going to use that in a campaign or one shot? I think it would be cool to have the players' minis walk the streets. So this person is asking, I need to go back here. This person's asking about my D&D diorama, and it's over there. I didn't need to have it over here. My D&D diorama is the project I've been working on since March, April, May. I keep March and May. I just like that. And it is a 6-level diorama, and it's just about done. I say that, and it could be months, but it's just about done. And when it's done, I've been talking about this a lot. I really do want to have a campaign. I really do want to play it online. This is something that I'm going to open up to some of the people that have been following it, anybody that wants to play it. And I'm not sure if it's going to be only patron. I don't know. See, the patron thing is I can have free people on Patreon, stuff like that. And it's just the hosting of it might be easier on Patreon. But it'll be open to anybody that's contributed, because there's a lot of folks. I've got questions from folks that have contributed, Joyce being one of them. We'll hear from Joyce's question here in a minute. But yes, I want to have a campaign in it. I want to run it online. I've never done it. I've never DM'd. I don't know the first thing about DMing. I've played a few times, but it's got a very rich story. I think I can weave a story, if not a little sketchy, because of how I speak, how I speak. I think if you've seen my my live streams, that I'll start a question, or I'll start a sentence, and about 80% through, I'm on to the next sentence. I didn't know this before. So for the people that can understand that kind of communication, yeah, I'm going to tell a story. I will have the full background. I keep looking over there because it's over there. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it'll be really enjoyable. I am going to request help from Joyce, which Joyce has already been helpful, from others online, Wister Crimson. There's lots of folks online that have contributed. And this also goes in to answer another question, which is really fun. But it is something that I am so passionate about. I want to be able to share it. So it's not going to be one game. I'm going to DM it, obviously, or maybe I got a guest DM. I don't know, but I do want to DM it. I do want to run it multiple times with different players and stuff like that. And I think it will be fun. I think it'll be a lot of full of gaffes and goofs and stupid stuff that I just, but I hope it will be fun. It'll be live. We'll do it online and do it live. And I'd really like to do that. So that is the plan for the diorama. And I'll tell you when I'm ready. It's not ready yet, but I've got the story developing in my head, but nothing has been committed to paper. So, but I'm very, very excited for it. So thank you for that question. I just want to come over here. And Christian says, when I feel burnt out from a project, I usually take a complete break for a day or two. Great advice. After that, I watch videos like yours to reignite the spark and find motivation again. Thank you very much, Christian. And I think that is a great way to do it. Let's get back to our question, because that's the answer to one of them. And I want more of you to kind of think about that. As we're looking at these questions, feel free to scan them and throw me some bones here, because I really appreciate that. My perspective is not what I'm trying to put out here. That's part of it. But a lot of it is what I've learned, and meaning that I've either experienced or heard it from other people. So the responses I'm going to give you is an amalgam of all of that. So thank you very much. We're going to get to another one. Looks forward to that. Thank you very much. So let's go back here. And the next question, what type of lights do you use, and do you get some that have the ability to flicker, or do you make the circuit that way? And I'm sorry, I didn't say who it was. Quayshire was our first person to ask the first question, and then this is Major Hawker, asks about the flickering lights and stuff like that. This is a great question, because recently, just last year, I started working with Diorama. And so because I'm talking about Diorama, and I like Diorama, and they sponsoring the lighting for my Diorama, this is a sponsored video. But I'm going to tell you what I think about it, completely honest, because it's not that I'm going to use all Diorama going forward. And it's just because some of the products haven't been developed yet. And I spoke to him this last night, and he's continuously, doing products. But the whole point is this. I'm going to bring up a picture. And this is just, this is an Arduino. If you haven't seen an Arduino, and an Arduino is just a little tiny computer, and they're very fun. You can write code for them, and you can tell them to flicker. And the flicker that you do in that can be modulated or moderated or changed to get a specific kind of flicker. Okay, just that right there. The other alternative, like the person with, I can't remember his name, sorry. I have to go back here. But anyway, the other type is you can buy what is a flickering LED. Much simpler. It does its own flicker. And I think it's great in certain applications. And that's really where it comes down to for me. I've done both. And in the diorama that this person, and I'm sorry, I need to have their name, Major Hawker. The example that Major Hawker is commenting on is my use of the flickering type in Wolfenstein, because that was the video that Major Hawker was talking about. The cool thing about that is I don't have to have any Arduino, and that was the picture I showed you before. I don't have to have any Arduino experience. I don't have to have the ability to program and all that kind of stuff, or really want to dive into it and stuff like that. And there's a caveat to this. And it works pretty good. It gets the effect across. Okay, now we switch to the Arduino side of it. First off, and John's on here, and John is great. John Robeck. The ability to take and vary the flicker with an Arduino with code is dramatic. It's not like, well, I could do it here and it's fine because it's in the light, and I could put it in there in my diorama and it'll be okay. And it will be okay. But if you're looking for something very specific, I would absolutely go Arduino. And the reason is this. I have code that does the flicker, and I can then decide which color light I want. Typically, the ones that you get that already flicker are amber. They're not blue, or they're not anything like that. And so you could have blue fire if you were doing it with Arduino. I was able to do like a fire barrel, and it's one of my more popular videos, and it's an Arduino with a fire barrel and stuff like that. And I did the whole thing, and I show you how I do it and everything. And I also have the code that I've made available on Patreon. And if you're a patron, you can get the code. Anybody can get it. It used to be at the top tier. Now it's everybody. So the code is there. But again, remember I said there's this caveat. Well, the caveat is this. What used to be difficult to learn code, write code, play with code, figure out code, just blah, It's cake now. And John Robeck showed me this, and I've further confirmed it. ChatGPT. If you don't know how to write Arduino code, you can go into ChatGPT and you can explain what you want it to do. You can explain the application. I mean, you have to put in the data. And the thing about ChatGPT is you have to learn not really how to use it. You need to learn how to ask good questions with enough information for ChatGPT to give you the answer that you want. That's really the secret of ChatGPT. You just need to learn how to ask really, really detailed and good questions. The more detailed your question is, the better the response coming back. And what I didn't understand about ChatGPT when Sean first told me, because he did a lighting program, and I'm going to talk about that really quickly here, is if it's not exactly correct, you can converse back to it, type whatever, to get the information in to say, no, please modify this. This wasn't quite right. Do this. And it will spit code out. Then you put that code into your Arduino, and then it'll do it. So here's the other example. My first example was just a flickering light. Perfect. Use the bulb. If you want something a little bit more, where you can cast shadows, like a brighter light or something like that, or vary the type of light, the flicker pattern, the modulation, whatever, then you go with an Arduino with your own lights. And then what John did was the massive use of it. And I explained to John that I, for my World War I diorama, had this idea of a background. So it's the background of your diorama. It's meant to be, the distant horizon. And I said, it would be really neat if we could have bombs going off. And it's a simple idea of just having lights going on and off. And here's where a flicker light can't do it. You could try it to put multiple lights in this string, and then you have something in front of it that kind of diffuses the light a little bit. So you have something that the light is shining on. And then you can have these flicker lights going off. You have to start and stop on number one when you have a flicker light. When it goes on, it's flickering, and it stays flickering. And it stops flickering when you turn it off. If you use the Arduino, you can say flicker and wait 15 seconds. Then flicker again. And so what John did was he made this strip of lights about 12 inches long. I can't remember, John. You could fill in if you'd like. It was about 12 inches long. And then different lights along there, addressable lights, so they could do different colors, would go off, and it looked like bombs going off in the distance. The flash, the report of an impacting bomb in World War I. Was amazing. He did all this in ChatGPT. Well, I mean, he had to do all the electronics and put up the board and everything like that. But I mean, he did it overnight. We talked about it one night. Next morning, he's saying, hey, look at this. It was nuts. That's the kind of thing that you can do with an Arduino, some help with ChatGPT, and a little bit of, thinking about what you're really trying to put out there. Because I think we're at a point now with diorama building that the novelty of having a display in a diorama is established. I'm not saying it's over. I'm saying it's very established. If you bring out your diorama at a show, there's more that are out there now. Whereas previously you would go there and a fairly small section. Well, there's more now, right? There's a lot more people doing dioramas. So now it's really where the top diorama builders maybe 10 years ago are us, right? Everybody's kind of come up to that level. We've got great experiences. We've had great examples. We've had amazing inspiration. The tools are at our disposal at this point. And so we can make some screaming dioramas. And the ones that are going to stand out these days are going to do a couple of things. Number one, they're going to be personal. You are going to put your personal touch on that, and that's going to make it different than anybody else's. Okay, so that's the number one thing. And number two, there are tools that are available to virtually everybody at this point that allow you to do stuff in your imagination that we didn't have 2 years ago. only 2 years ago, right? And that's amazing. I think I'm I worked in software for a long time, but I was in sales and customer service. I don't know how to program and stuff like that. I was around it all the time. So yeah, I know the language and stuff like that. And I can go in and kind of beat around and change and stuff like that and code and things like that. But for someone like me to say I want to write a little program for my Arduino and put it in my model and stuff is exceedingly frightening. It's frightening. I'm like, man, why do we even think that? I could never do that. And so it shuts down that idea, completely takes it out of the realm of what I could do with my diorama. And now I don't think it has to. That's the point. You can achieve these things. I don't care if you have electronics. I don't care if you know coding. It doesn't matter. You can get the result you're looking for as long as you understand how to ask the right questions. And it's not asking somebody to do it for you. It's interface. There's that flipping interfacing word. It's just making me weirded out, because I'm thinking like we're all going to be robots soon. It's communicating properly, understanding how to communicate to this new medium that allows us to get information at our will and our want and when we want it. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I see it as the great library of Alexandria, all of those ancient tomes of knowledge that we always heard about, makes it accessible. The Library of Congress. You always, when I was growing up as a kid, the Library of Congress was just like this, thing that had all this knowledge. But how do you get to it? Well, you got to go there and you got to check out a book and you got to read it all. Well, it's all there. But deciphering it, finding it, figuring out how to use it, all of that was just a pipe dream. You had to have the right things in place to do it. Not anymore. So this is not a big chat GPT thing, but I do want you to maybe understand that it's not scary. It's very available to you. It listens to you. It listens to what you say, which sometimes, I don't know how many times you've asked somebody a question and it takes 4 times to get the answer because they don't understand what you're saying. It'll understand what you say pretty darn much, and it'll give you the information you need. Amazing tool. I use it now, not every day, but I use it a lot. It doesn't change the way that I think. It doesn't change the way that I build. It's not influencing my creativity. It's allowing me to release it because there are sometimes things that I don't know how to do. I have the idea, but I don't know how to do it. I can ask ChatGPT and it can let me do the things that I imagine. Boy, it's a huge thing. So enough. I keep going on and on and on about stuff and it's terrible. Okay, I got to look at some comments here and we're going to continue with our questions. Did I even come close to answering the question about the lights? Flicker lights are great. Don't have to do Arduino. If you want a specific effect, you have it and you can do it. And employing ChatGPT is a very easy way to do it. I think we probably need to do a video on that because it is a great tool for anything, but specifically for people like history and you're working on a plane. See, there I go. I'm just going right down that road. So I got to stop talking about ChatGPT because I'm excited about it, but I don't want to just do this. So look forward to that. That's wonderful. Next, a lot of battery-driven tea lights got flickering LEDs. Yes. And I even have one around here somewhere. It's one that my wife got, and these are battery. This one's actually rechargeable, but it broke, not because I dropped it, but it wasn't made very well. But sometimes even just pulling these things apart, if you don't have a flickering one, if you had one, pull it apart, use it. I do that kind of stuff all the time. That's why it's here. The candles. Yes. Okay. Sometimes I want the AI to freak out and almost making a diffuse prompt. Well, here's the funny thing. When I was speaking, because you can speak to ChatGPT, you can input by mouth or type, whatever. And I had it reading back a story, and I instructed it to read back the story and try to, like somebody when they're reading I'll come right back to you, John. When somebody's reading a book or something like that, and they try to maybe do someone's voice over or voice character, they enunciate. I don't even know the right word for it, but they pronounce in a different way. Chat GPT was doing this with me, and at one point it went, ah! It like screamed. I swear, I'm not joking. It was not anything other than a scream. That was a little freaky. I got it full on. I just got to say, that was a little freaky when ChatGPT just screamed in the middle of a sentence. So anyway, but I was a real big fan of Outer Limits and Twilight Zone as a kid. So what the heck? I'm living an episode. Okay, thank you very much. Great question so far, everybody. And I really hope I'm getting the information out. I'm that kind of person that has a really hard time keeping stuff in my head, just not coming out. I get an idea and I just want to express it. So, John says, the great thing about using a row of LEDs, you can animate the position of the light. ChatGPT helped immensely, but I still had to know how to script functions and manually tweak things. Yeah, and that's a really good point, John. And when we do that kind of thing, I hope you can be a part of it. And what I'm talking about is doing a video about ChatGPT and about coding and about kind of working up to that. I don't know if you're into it, but I mean, I'd love to talk to you about it because you showed me a lot of really great stuff and helped me immensely. So I would appreciate it. Adjustable RGB lights have incredible possibilities. Yeah, and I agree. There's a lot out there that I really kind of think about when I want to do a diorama. I'm not thinking about I want to tell this story or something like that. I mean, I am, but I'm also thinking about I'd like to light it. I'd like to have this mood. I'd like to have this happen in it. I'd like to have this feeling in it. And these things are out there for you. Lighting. I haven't done sound in my dioramas, and I don't know why. It's out there. It can be done. John Robeck, we've been talking with him. John's got soundboards and stuff like that, and we talked about it and stuff. And so you can add sound. Why not? This is a playground. A diorama is meant to communicate an idea, communicate a story, communicate what you wanted when you built your diorama. I don't think there's anything off the table. I think we're at a point where, I mean, yeah, I don't want like you remember the old Looney Tunes, Duck Dodgers, I think it was Bugs Bunny lands on the planet, and then the top of the spaceship pops open, and then a bunch of flags, because we landed on the thing, and then it closes, then he comes out. I don't want something like that. I'm not personally. You might. I don't want a diorama that looks like a one-man band in the corner, and people go over to see what in the heck is that thing. That's not my goal. I don't want something obnoxious. I don't want something that other modelers, well, and I may have already breached that with my dioramas, but I don't want something that other modelers are sitting next to us like, what is this guy's problem? You know what I mean? I don't want to do that. I don't want to cause anybody any ill. So I don't want to go over the top with these effects or these methods and stuff, but I am really interested in telling a full story with a diorama. And that's really a progressive thing in diorama building. I mean, if you're really into it like I am, I want to continuously improve the ability to tell the story. I want to utilize anything that I can that's going to get that story across in as much of a vivid way as possible. I've tried a lot of stuff, and lighting, seems natural. animating your lighting, like John's talking about, is another great step. There can be movement in your dioramas. There's little servo motors. You know, there's been RCs forever. There's people, Tom Haney Model Works or Tom Haney Artwork. He's online. He's amazing. I've been following him for years. He does these little machine maquettes and stuff like that, and automatons and automata or whatever the heck they, automata, whatever they call it. But it's wonderful. So you can have movement in your stuff. I think all of that's out there. It's just that you want to have all of that stuff available to you when you're thinking about your diorama, and understand how to implement that stuff into your diorama so that you can edit. Because there have been points as I'm designing, building, whatever, that I say I want to do this, but I didn't even know that existed. In my World War I trench diorama, I heard the story about digging trenches in World War I, and they used candles. The people actually digging the, not trenches, I'm sorry, the tunnels, the saps underground. And because of some of the clays that were white in some places, they would be digging by candlelight and go snowblind, which is, you know, it's affected your eyes because of all the white, and you can't focus, and you basically go blind for a few days, and it returns. You know, severity different, but whatever. Everybody's heard about snowblind. Well, that happened because of candlelight underground. What a remarkable thing, you know? So that little thing, that little nugget of historically accurate data was something that would be really fun to put in a diorama. But a candle at 35th scale? Well, John Robeck comes to me one day and goes, hey, look at these. And they were 0.1 or 0.01, I believe, millimeter LEDs. Super tiny, tiniest ones I'd ever seen. I had 1 millimeter LEDs for so long, but those are too big. Those would look dumb. It would look like you were holding a candlestick with a light bulb on the top of it, just because of in scale, the 1 millimeter LED was too darn big. Well, John comes to me with this 0.1. There you go. I don't think it was very long, John, before I made a candle out of those, and I love them. They work wonderfully, and it does look like an actual candle in 35th scale. That's what I mean about understanding what's out there, understanding what the opportunities are for you as you're designing, so that if you know that something's out there, then you can consider bringing that into your diorama, bringing that effect in to create some sort of way to more clearly express yourself, more clearly get that story across to people. That's what I'm hoping to bring, and that's the stuff that gets me super excited. So let's look at some more questions. Just me yammering cannot be good content. Can Ghost use the computer mouse, or does he chase it? Now, this is from John Harrison. Lovely gentleman, friend of mine for years. We talk all the time. Love John. He's also one of my inspirations, because John has the ability. I did a special video on John specifically. John builds these brilliant one-shot dioramas, and he takes it. What he does, he sets up his stuff. He sets up his figures, he paints them all, stuff like that. He sets up a scene, and he takes a picture, and then he takes it all apart. That's it. But when he takes that picture, and it's John Harrison, 1956, I think is on Instagram, where you can see his stuff. When he does that, though, he is just so good at taking a very minimalist scene. He's like Daniel Buckmeyer, I believe is Daniel's last name. Boy, I really messed it up. And I've known Daniel for years online, and I hope I don't mess that up. But he takes the minimalist scene that you possibly could have, and the thing just pours emotion out. It really does. There's just no question in your mind what either the person in the diorama is feeling, or the mood in the group of people that's gathered there, or in like Daniel Buckmeyer's case, his diorama, he's got one outside the gates of Auschwitz, and it's two people hugging, and one person is in stripes, and it's just the gate, and that's it. And it's stunning in its ability to just give emotion. And you sit there and look at that gate, the ground, those two figures, and that word for like 20 minutes, right? It's so powerful. So John Harrison is the same kind of person. They can distill their thoughts and they can distill their ability to create a scene so that you don't have to put all this garbage like I put in. There's no background, there's no depth. Everything there is necessary. Nothing is wasted, and all of it goes to show you an emotion. So this is something that I'm really striving for. I love details. If you haven't seen a video of my shop, it's just chock full of stuff because I just love that look. And so I tend to put that kind of thing in my dioramas. I love little tiny details because I love finding surprises. But I also admire immensely the ability to communicate, even if it's just one thing, and it's not just one thing. In both these gentlemen's cases, you feel a wash of emotion initially, but then your mind starts to disseminate the information that's presented, and it's just wonderful. These gentlemen can just do amazing things, and I implore you to go look at their stuff because it is really amazing. We're in an age where we consume a lot of things visually, and I've always been a super visual person, visual learner, visual everything, right? And a lot of us are, but you also have the ability to take and gain things from the written word and stuff like that, which is depleted in my case. So for me, this is an amazing medium that I'm able to receive all this wonderful information visually today, and people that can build and people that can give those stories within their dioramas and the other creations that they make. It could be writing, how to get your feelings and your emotions across to people. I admire that so much, and that is one of the things. So see, there's a tangent. Back to John Harrison's question. Sorry, I'm just this way. John asked, does Mouse play with the mouse or get any work done? And the funny thing is, Ghost, who's my cat, he's wonderful. He does come up and he plays with the mouse on the screen when I'm trying to work, and it's bad. This, it's a nice computer, and he's 2.5 years old, and so it's all claws and teeth still. He hasn't learned to be kind of gentle and stuff like that. When Ghost wants to explore, it's like this, And so it's very funny. I have to watch him on the desk because he is very inquisitive. He's new to the shop environment and he's growing up in here now fine. But he was a stray and he was feral and he was in the woods. We live up in the mountains. And so it took months for Mrs. MC to kind of get him to chill out and get him to come around. And she literally during a summer 2 years ago sat on the ground, and just waited for him. And he would sit in the woods and sit and look at her. That was it. And I'd be in here in the shop because I can see right out my back window. And he would just sit there and just stare at her for hours, no joke. And she would talk to him and stuff like that, not approach it. It was a beautiful thing. I don't know. That kind of thing is great. And Ghost is just doing wonderful in the shop. He's learning all these things now after such a wild youth. Well, he was just a kitten then because he wasn't very big. He was a teeny kitten in the woods. So anyway, it's wonderful. And thank you, John, for the question, because John loves Ghost and Oscar before Ghost too, because we lost Oscar last year, about a year ago. Hey, Eric is here. Hold on, so I don't want to miss somebody. I got some more folks here. Bobbity, Scooter Pumpkin Shooter. Hello. I remember your comments from this last week. Thank you very much. Hey, Bill, I picked up some 1/4" MDF. Wonderful. I'm making an enclosure for the back of a diorama. What's your preferred method for cutting MDF and your favorite adhesive? That's fantastic. That's part of what we're going to talk about today. If I ever get there, that's a wonderful question, and I want to answer that. So we're going to do that. I want to say hello to Eric. Hello, Eric. Thanks very much for coming on. It's so great to see you. Eric is the president of Seattle Amps, and just a great model builder, great guy. If you haven't been to an Amps event or an Amps website or something like that, you know, people that do this, Amps is about armor preservation modeling society, something like that. Armor modeling preservation society. There it is, AMPS. And it's all about armor, and it's wonderful. So great stuff. Go check out an amp site and look at Seattle Amps, because great builders on there too. So let me, Bobbity, let me go back to questions, because I think that is coming up, Scooter Pumpkin Shooter, and I want to answer that for you. Here's Joyce. Joyce says, how do you pick which dioramas to make? I think we're going to come back to that, because you know, that could be one of those moments where I just go off for a while, because I love talking about how I come up with ideas. Bill, do you ever get bogged down? We're going to come back to that. Material used to cover. There's Scooter Pumpkin Shooter. We're going to talk about you, sir. I'm sorry. I say sir it means respect. I don't try to assign gender. I know that's something that's really tender for folks, you know, these days. And I respect that. It's totally fine. I naturally say it because of my military time, stuff like that. So no bad or ill will intended. So let's talk about this MDF. Now, I want to answer this for Scooter Pumpkin Shooter first, because I got some examples. Here is the 1/4" MDF. That's medium density fiber board. And what it's for is for pretty much anything you want to use it for, I guess, you know. But what I want to do is make a distinction on how to work with it, adhese it, you know, use the right adhesive and stuff like that, like Scooter Pumpkin Shooter saying, but also what not to get. So this is a 1/4" thick. This is also extremely common, and this is called hard board, okay? And it's very easy to see. It's much smoother on one side, and on the back side, it has an extremely rough texture, okay? And it's an applied texture. It's not a natural texture, because these are pressed to, you know, in the manufacturing process and then cut to size. So not hardboard, not to say you couldn't use it, perfectly fine. But all of the methods that I'm going to talk about are for using 1/4" MDF, okay? So, number one, Scooter Pumpkin Shooter, I just use yellow glue. I really think that's the best thing. This is paper, okay? It's just paper. It's you know, pressed together and stuff like that. If you put water to it, it would almost look like cardboard when it comes apart. It would take a while, but it would just fall apart. So think about that. Yellow wood glue. Yellow wood glue will penetrate this and get into it and stick very well. There's a video that I did a number of years ago, and it is Rommel's retreat from Kasserine Pass. And in that video, I'm using the 1/4" MDF. And one of the things that I do is I will glue it, okay, kind of get it set up. And you could bevel the corners if you wanted. It's a little bit harder that way. Or just go ahead and do a lap over it. That's what I prefer. Just, you know, have the other piece come over right like that, so they're butt up against each other. Glue it there. Let it sit for about a half an hour. And then I really would recommend pinning it. By pinning it, what you're doing is you're creating a mechanical joint. And by pinning it, what I mean is you can use a couple of different things. A toothpick is perfectly strong enough to do it. And all you do is so I've got another piece right there, and they've been glued for half an hour. Then I'll drill in from this side. So I'm going through the side of one and then through the end of the other into it. Doesn't have to go that far. Literally a 1/4 inch is as far as it needs to go. And then after I drill into it, then I don't want to use the pointy end of that. So I cut that off. So I just have basically a consistent dowel. And I'll just tap that in there with a little glue on the end of it, dab a little glue into the hole, tap that in there, cut it off flush when it's done. That's a pretty darn good joint for a facade or a cover for the outside of your diorama. It's not a strength joint at all, but it's going to hold that thing together. Okay, so you've got it joined together. Hopefully your ends are flush and stuff like that. If you're not, that's okay. It's pretty strong. You've got to be really careful of it, but it's pretty strong. What I do on the inside, and there is a video, and I don't know the name of the video, but on the inside, what I will do is, so this is like this, right? I will put triangles on the inside. So taking pieces of this, cut them into very small triangles, 45-degree angle triangles, and put them on the inside. That'll give it a little bit more structural strength so that if you have to take it off, put it back on through the build process, that'll do it. If you're just going to put it right up against the sides of your diorama, to hold the sides in, I don't think it's necessary, though I've done both. Will that come off of there? If you'll give me a second, I'm going to show you something. Okay, so what this is my World War I diorama, and I'm taking off the outer shell. And it's very, very sketchy. So I don't know if it's going to work. No, I don't think it is. Darn, I was trying. Well, yeah, it's not going to work. I was trying, and I'm sorry. It's over there, but I got to take the whole diorama apart, and I was going to show you those joints inside. I will find a video to show you, or I will take it apart after the live stream and show you, because those little triangles in there do really help. Okay, so that's all fine. It's joined together. How do we finish it? Because this is a biggie. When I finish these, and this one's a little bit different. This is my World War I diorama. It's got a little bit different wood that I use. This is actually hemlock, a 1/4 inch hemlock. It's not the MDF. I like the MDF because once I'm done with it, I can go ahead, I've got the structure. I can then go ahead and take that same yellow wood glue, dilute it with water, just water, and paint the whole thing inside and out with glue and water. It's going to seem messy. It's not going to take long to dry. I mean, it's going to take some time. But what that does is it seals it, because this is quite porous. And what will happen is when you try to paint it, it'll just suck up all the paint that you put on it. So this is how I do it. So I paint the whole thing with 50/50 Mod Podge, not Mod Podge, I'm sorry, yellow glue and water. Once it's dry, the other effect is it'll make the fibers of the wood in some cases stand up a little bit. So you'll feel it'll be a little bit rough. Knock it down with 220 sandpaper. By knocking it down, what I mean is it just lightly sanding. You're not going at it, you're just lightly sanding. I wouldn't even use a power sander. I just use your hands. Knock that down until it's smooth, okay? Then prime it. Now, what's going to happen when you prime it after you put that sealer on? You'll get a pretty smooth texture out here, but the ends where it's kind of more open will not. They'll just suck up that paint, okay? It's okay. It's totally fine. So you do your primer, you get your primer on there, you see that it kind of does okay out here, and it's a little bit rough here. Please do 2 coats of primer. And if you want to use like a primer paint, that's totally fine too. But you're really trying to do lighter coats. You don't want it to run. A lot of the paints these days will say like 2X on it, so it like really throws the paint out there. Well, you do it on here, you're going to see it. Real flat surface like that's going to really show a drip. So just take your time. I like Krylon. paint is the one that I personally prefer, Krylon, not sponsored. I just like their stuff. And so after 2 coats, the sides are going to look great. The top is going to look terrible because it's sucking in that paint. That is when you go down and you do a little bit more sanding. And this will take a couple times, but when you start sanding that down, because of the primer and the paint that's in there, it'll start creating a little bit more of a solid shell like the outside. And that's where you really have to concentrate your work. So what paint am I using? You use whatever paint you want. What I use is the Krylon, and I'll use black matte. I want flat. It comes out satin when I'm done, but I like flat because I can get a little bit different satin color. So what I do, I've got my 2 coats on. I've worked on the edges to kind of knock them down. Then I'll do a coat of the final paint. If it's paint and primer, that's fine. Just continue going with your black or whatever color paint you're doing until, and it could take a couple more coats until you see that the top of that edge or sides or whatever's exposed is smooth. It does take a little bit. You got to, sand in between coats. Once you've got that, okay, then I'll take the whole thing and do one final coat. Okay. After that final coat, let it dry overnight. Drying times for rattle can paints, because that's what I use is just hand rattle can spray paint. It will dry in 15 minutes, but it takes 24 hours for it to cure. And what that means is that paint will dry to the touch. But if you took your thumb and you pushed into that paint, it would make an impression and it would actually physically move the paint. It's not cured. It's dry to the touch. It's not cured. It needs to harden. So overnight, what will happen is that paint will lose more of the carrier, the stuff that makes it soft and sprayable. The carrier will gas off and that paint will get hard. A couple days is best, but one day is fine. So the next day I come in and I burnish it. Now, burnishing is nothing other than rubbing, right? And because it's a flat paint, you understand how flat paint works. The particles of paint stick up into the air. That's what gives the flat appearance because it's not smooth. Like high gloss paint, all the paint lays down. The particles of paint lay down. That's why it's a smooth surface. So what we're doing with that flat paint after it's dried is we're going to burnish it and we're partially knocking down those little paint particles. And what it gives you is this really nice satin surface that's not quite satiny and not quite, buff or whatever you want to call it. I really like it. And the other thing that's nice about that is if you use a flat paint on your stuff, which I've seen people do like ultra black or black or blackity black. I don't know, black paint that's like ultra black, right? Black 2.0 or 4.0 or what. I've seen it, never used it. Hit your knuckle on that thing. What I mean is you've used this ultra black paint, flat black paint, right? Take your knuckle and do that. It's going to look like you took a brush of paint and put on because those fibers are so rough to get the blackness, the flat, blackness of it, that it picks up everything, dust. It's horrible. Whereas if you take my method and just burnish your flat black on there, it gives a nice surface that can still take a mar, but right before I go to a show, what I'll do is I'll take a paper towel. I will then put a little bit of water on it, squeeze it, so it's kind of nicely, it's got water all over it, but it's not dripping, right? It's just moist. Then I'll take it, shake it out, fold it back up, and I wipe that surface. It looks brand new. There's no dust. There's no mar. There's no nada. It's perfect. So that is how I do the outsides of my dioramas, the facade. I do it with the base. I do the whole schlemiel that way. And it seems to do pretty darn good. I do have to repaint them after going to multiple shows, maybe every 3 years, and I've only got a couple that I've done that with. But I did, because they get banged up, and it's not just a nudge or, a scuff or something like that. It's like I took a corner out. So yeah, but that method has been what I've been doing now for a number of years, and I do it on all my dioramas. I really like it. You don't go there and you have scuffs and because I mean that'll happen as you just set up at the table, So anyway, I hope that answered that, and I hope that was a fair answer to your question. And if you have more questions about it, just talk to me. I do need to get you the inside pictures of that so you can see those little supports that I put inside the corners. It's really simple, and if you've done woodworking, you'll get it. But it is really helpful for the structural integrity of that little facade that you're putting around your diorama. And I make mine so they're all removable. I don't take that back. One of them I nailed in, and I said I'm not doing that again, because the ability to remove those allows me to still work on the model later on. If for some reason a light goes out or something like that, I can take it apart, I can fix it, I put it back together, done. So anyway, so let me see. And Scooter Pumpkin Shoes says, thank you, I just joined the Patreon, I'll give this a try and post some pics. Wonderful. I think that's fantastic. And like I said, don't let me forget, because I am the most forgetful person you ever meet. Please don't let me forget to share those other pictures, because the inside pictures, I think it tells a lot. And that's on my latest diorama that I did. And I've got the pictures. I just got to post them there. Thank you very much. That's awesome, Scooter Pumpkin Shooter. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay. We are now going to go back. We had some other questions that I didn't talk about to get to that one. Bill, do you ever get bogged down or discouraged in the middle of a build? If so, what do you do to push on? This is such a wonderful question, because I think a lot of us, I get it virtually every time. And so I really like that question. Hold on. So are all of your facades 1/4" MDF, or do you use any veneers? I've got veneers, but I've not used them, Mark, on the outside of my dioramas. I think, I just saw one that Martin Kovac did on Night Shift, and it looks really nice, because he kind of did some, because it's wood, it's a round one, it's an upside down something or other, and it looked really nice, and I like that. And I know Plasmo, I've seen Plasmo do the same thing, top end diorama builders. I don't like it so much. It's not quite as durable, and I don't know. I think mine's a little bit heavier duty, and I like the heavy duty of it. But I like the look of the veneers. I really do. Like the one that Martin Kovac just did. I really like the fact that there was this kind of fading at the top. So he just kind of, I don't know, I didn't watch the build fully. I watched the first part of it, but I really like the look of it. So yeah, veneers are great. Now, here's the other thing. Veneers are not inexpensive. If you go to a woodworking store or online, it's perfectly fine. You can buy veneers, and different ones, blah, blah, blah. But some of them are stupid expensive. I'm not kidding. I mean, some of these veneers are ridiculous. If you want something book matched, or, all this kind of stuff, it can be very expensive. But oh my gosh, it's some beautiful stuff, burls and things like that. And if you really want to put something, because I love the fact that people do a display, a nice wooden display. I just think wood really works well with it. But if you're doing that, I would go for it. That is really good stuff. And then Mark says he cuts it to profile with a box cutter. I've seen him do it. And the very first time I saw Plasmo cutting that veneer after it's been applied, he did a I think it was a Focke-Wulf 190, and there's like this corner buttressed, it's like a paddock where and I'm talking about Plasmo's diorama. It's a number of years ago. And it's like a little paddock there. And then on the outside, he put this stuff. And when I saw both of them gentlemen cutting with a hobby knife, you said he used a box knife. That's fine. You know, this is the other thing is those expandable knives where you can click off the thing. I've never been a fan of those, but I see a lot of folks in Europe using those. My mind was just like, oh my gosh, I've cut myself a lot in my shop over 30 plus years being in here. I mean, you know, you've seen those things where they can take a picture of your hands with different light and see all the scars. You wouldn't be able to see my hands. It's just all scars. I've done a lot of really, really heinous stuff with my hands and knives. And it just scares me to death when I see people cutting veneer that way. Because the thing with veneer is this. I've got something similar to that. So what Mark is talking about is, now this is actually plywood, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, watch me cut myself while I'm demonstrating this. So here's some very, very thin plywood, different than veneer. Plywood is plies, you know, applied in different directions to give it strength. So this is really nice. This, I would say, is better than veneer. It's got a nice veneer on the outside, so it looks okay. But it's not true veneer. True veneer is one sheet of wood, super thin. It's meant to be applied on another piece of wood, so it looks like a really nice piece of wood that's this thick instead of only that thick, because they're about a 64th of an inch thick or less. I don't know, they get really super thin. But the problem is this. When you have veneer that's not ply, and it's actual veneer, the grains typically go in this direction, right? And so if you're trying to cut a contour, which both these gentlemen were doing, the sides of their dioramas undulated slightly, and that was the terrain, you know, the nap of the earth as it was going. And so they're trying to cut a line to follow that terrain with this wonky knife, and they're trying to do something like that. Well, the problem, again, that I have with that is if you're cutting a veneer going across it, like if I'm cutting downward, that's okay. But as soon as I straighten that knife out to cut in that direction, you lock in between a couple pieces of grain, and that knife will just split it, and it'll shoot right down that thing. The worst, well, the best scenario in that is it just cuts the wood. The worst is you cut your hand, because in both instances, there were times when I saw those gentlemen putting their hands in the direction of the knife. Be super careful with that. You know, I know we all know that, working with that stuff, but there are a few properties of wood that are so much different than plastic. You've got to really think about it, because if I did cut into a piece of veneer like that and it splits and you go down, you can't stop it. A piece of plastic has the same density profile pretty much throughout of it. So as you're cutting, the tension on it isn't really going to vary. It will with wood. Be super careful with wood. It can really mess up your whole day. And I would hate that. And some people work with scalpels. Holy cow. It's like finger, you know. Please be careful with that kind of stuff. Though it's a beautiful look, just how would I trim it? I would trace it out, and that's actually what I've done. I've shown that in some of my dioramas. I would trace it out, cut it, put it flat on a piece of paper or on a bench or something like that, and then cut it where it's secure, it's flat. You can't have it on your, you know, and then it doesn't have to be perfect, and then wrap it around your diorama again, and then use a Dremel or something like that to slowly, you know, take those things down, like a rotary tool or even a file. You know, that stuff is not going to take a long time. When you're working with thin woods like that, don't necessarily think, oh boy, it's just going to take long, I'm going to try to speed it up. You don't have to. It's going to go quick. Okay. Please be safe. That wood is a wonderful material, but it does not have the same properties as plastic. It's completely different. Okay. I'm like knocking over my coffee and stuff. Okay. So let's get back to questions, because I had other questions. I think we got both of these. Are we good there? Material? No, we never really got back. Discouraged, middle of the build. So what do we do when we get a little bit bogged down. I think the first thing to think about in that scenario is to realize it happens to everybody, virtually everybody. It's, I think, rare when you hear someone say, "Man, I got into my flow state and I just knocked out that model." It happens, right? But that's usually a point of there's no distractions, there's no life going on around you that's really pulling you away. The fact is, we have a lot of things pulling at our time, and sometimes those things become more important than your motivation to work on your project. And once that's over, you've lost that mojo to go back to your project and just dive right in, with the same amount of zeal that you had when you first started, right? I mean, it's just human nature. Again, so realizing that that's an issue, it is a problem, you can plan for it. You can plan for it. Earlier on, we talked to Mark and he says, "I've got too many projects." I love that. I absolutely love that, because before I had a schedule, that I had to kind of keep going on stuff. I would have 3 and 4 and 5 projects going at a time, because when I found those little points where it's like, I don't have a good idea, I don't want to work on this, that's just not feeling it today, I could go to something else. Now, I am the kind of person that's a fidgeter. Can't sit down to watch a full movie these days without wanting to get up halfway through it and say, I need to be doing something else. I used to be able to do that. Can't do it anymore. Part of it's the channel, and I have a lot of things to do, and I'm, I work 7 days a week. Love it. But I work 7 days a week. So for a lot of that, as long as I'm doing something, I'm okay. And on a diorama, there's always something. You'll notice if you have the opportunity to look at my shorts every day, I don't always go in a linear fashion. For me, as a matter of fact, a linear fashion is not a good thing, because I think, like Christian said before, there also needs to be a little bit of time for rest. There needs to be time to take a couple of days. You can build when you're not into it, but is that what you want to be doing? I do think putting it down for a couple of days, doing something else and completely different, is a great way to handle the mojo thing. And I try not to make it a pressure point. Yeah, I have pressure points because I have things that are due because of the channel and stuff like that. But at the same time, I try to work it in and say, that's when I'm going to do it. So that's another thing. Trying to schedule free time. The hardest thing to do when you're trying to get back to your model is say, as soon as I get a minute. Because that can be 6 months later, as soon as I get a minute, right? I don't think that's the best way to handle that. It should be something that, look, it's important to me, and I make time to do it. Even if you don't do anything during that time, and this goes into another way that I keep myself motivated. By setting that time aside, and by having a place that Ghost came in. I have to check to make sure he doesn't have something in his mouth a lot of times. By coming in and doing that, even if you don't work, that time has been set aside for it. And I think you should take that time, even if you just sit there and ponder, look at your model and think, I don't feel like working. Don't get up and do something else. Sit there. Not to wallow in it, but imagine, boy, if I did that next time. And that's why, personally, I like little breaks and I like time to ruminate. That's such an important part to creativity. I think sometimes we get into this mode of thinking, I've got to get this done. I mean, that's life. We have to get some things done. But in this instance, I think when you're trying to rush creativity, you can steamroller past things that could enhance what you're doing. You know, your mind works on things when you're not working on things, right? That's how we get epiphanies. That's how we get great ideas. Oh my gosh, I've been thinking about this for years, but I never figured it out. And all of a sudden it came to me. Well, yeah, because your mind was working on it. Okay. And so when you step away from something, you know you're going back. You've put some time set for it. Your mind doesn't stop working on it, even if you're doing something that completely takes your mind away from it. Your mind's still working on it. So when you do come back for that scheduled time, again, not I'll get to it when I have time, but I've scheduled time to do it. Those things will say in your subconscious, I might want to be ready for that. If it doesn't happen the first time, it'll happen the second time. Don't just do it once, say, oh, nothing came to it, so I'm just bag it. No, if you really can't do anything, it's because you're overthinking it. You've heard that term. Everybody has. You're overthinking it. And when you overthink stuff, you can build walls. Here, not physical, of course. You know where I'm going with this. And building those walls can then be a negative. And then when you start thinking about modeling again, it's a negative. And it's not the model that's a negative. It's all of the overthinking that you put in to getting back to your model. Let it go. Just let it go. You're not going to forget about it. You're not going to stop working on it. Your subconscious is still building that model. Your subconscious still has in mind what you want to achieve there. Let it work. Don't get upset. Okay, that's fine if you don't have a timeline, something that happens, something that's coming, something that's pending. I'm doing this for a model show. You know, I got to get it done. When those instances are there, you know, it just those circumstances have appeared for you. I always go back to the basics. I go back to why I started this project, okay? And I'm not trying to talk myself in or out of it. I'm trying to recapture that initial burst of excitement for it. So I look at the plans that I first wrote. I look at the ideas that I first had. I go back to the box and I look at literally the cover of the box, because a lot of us get ideas when we look at the cover art on our box. So I just, you know, I try to re-engage with it, but not forcefully. If you force it, I think that can be a negative and cause it to be pushed further away. Okay, now, one other thing that I've talked a lot on this subject about is similar to putting the time aside. Put a place aside, okay? Put a place aside. My whole shop, and I've started calling it the model shop because I really have kind of transitioned more to modeling in my shop today than woodworking, because it was built as a woodworking shop, but it's a model shop today because everything is focused on model building. Did you hear what I just said there? Everything is focused on model building. When I come in here, the focus is model building. When I go into the kitchen, the focus is on cooking or food. If I'm modeling on the kitchen table, some of us have to. We have no options, and that's okay. It's 100% okay. But if you can, and it doesn't have to be a big place, create a space where you model. That is huge to me. This whole model shop is that. When I come out here, ostensibly, it is for creating. The whole shop. Before it was woodworking, drawing, metalworking. I do everything out here. Video, photography, the whole thing. I'm you know how you pay for a membership to go to the gym because you don't have a gym? This is my gym. You pay for a membership to go to an art class. This is my art class. You pay to go somewhere to do it. And when you get there, everything there is there for you to do that activity. Set that self up, that up for yourself is what I was trying to say. And that's what I've done. And I've done it in my model shop in areas, in sections, in places that if I want to do metal working, I go over there. That's my metal corner, right? If I'm here, it's all modeling. There's nothing in here but modeling. Now I do electronics here too. So, you can share it. But the point is, I have a very specific place for it. I'm hugely fortunate to do this. Not a lot of people have a freestanding model shop. I mean, we built this ourselves. So it's not like somebody gave it to me. No, we had to earn this, and you can earn yours too. But creating a place that you model just by being there helps you get past that. And I promise you it does. When I come out to the shop, I know I'm going to create something. I don't know if I'm going to model today. There's a lot of stuff I can do. I could write, I could edit, I could play games but you know what I'm saying? I've created a space for me where it is conducive to the activity that I want to do. Okay. And if I'm in that place and I have things around me in that place that inspire me, that make me think of that activity, that gives me ideas, because I mean, that's it. I'm surrounded by it. For me, that really helps me stay motivated. And there are times, my goodness, I can't say it enough. There are times where you shouldn't be modeling. You just shouldn't. You should be thinking about it, and you will, because that's your primary project at that time. And so don't worry about you're not thinking about it. I haven't thought about it in years. No, that's not the facts. If it's a project that you're working on, you are thinking about it. Your subconscious is continuously thinking about paint color and how to color it and how to mask it and what everything is going on back there. Just let it. And doing other things and getting your mind out of it sometimes is the best way to get back into it. Okay. I really hope that helped, because I hear this a lot and it doesn't affect me so much anymore, because I plan for it and I know kind of what to do, and I've set up these areas and I have time. I schedule it. I do all these things that I'm talking about. And for me, it's different because I do this full time. But for you, I think that there are some of those things that could really help and getting you past that bogged down spot, because it happens with everything. And it's not just modeling. It could be writing a report at work. It could be, man, I hate this time of month because I got to knock this thing out. Because I used to do a lot of sales support. That was my main job, was sales support. And oh my gosh, there were times of the month where I just had these massive reports to put out. And I just hated them. Still had to do them. It's different than creating, because you're getting paid for it. Creating, you're not getting paid for it necessarily. But you are paying yourself, because by having that creative outlet, by having the ability to do those things and having that space created for yourself, it clears your mind. It gives yourself a little bit of, everybody talks me time. I think me time is not what we need more of, but there are times for it. I don't think we need more time with me. I think we need more time with other people, but that's just aside. Okay, so let's get to another question. And I want to get back to everybody. Okay. I often use 10 snips to cut thin wood boards, and that will work too. Again, much safer, miniatures and small scale, much safer than a knife. Man, you can do it, but so careful. Please be careful with those knives. Right. There's always something more on a diorama. Exactly. I can always move to another area on the diorama. I can always think of something else. And by moving it around, that's just a great way to do it. Benny is here from Germany. Hello, Benny. Thank you so much for coming in. It's very nice to see you. I don't know where in Germany Benny lives, but Benny is from Germany. And I love Germany. I was there for 3.5 years, and it is just a fantastic place. So if you haven't been to Germany, it's a lovely place to visit and live. Okay, so we got some more questions. Which ones haven't I gotten to yet? How do you pick which dioramas to make? I love that question. That is from Joyce, and we haven't covered that yet. What type of lights? We got that. Can ghosts use computers? So that's our last questions online. And I'm going to go back and make sure that I got everybody's question that asked in here too, because there were some questions out there. I don't want to miss those. How do I pick my dioramas? This is really fun because, you know, when I am coming up to the end of a diorama, because I do them now linear. I don't work on more than one at a time. I do other stuff while I'm working on one, but I do, one diorama at a time. So about halfway through, which is an indeterminate amount of time, I have to start thinking about the other one, because it is that amount of time of thinking. It is kind of figuring out what's really going to be fun with all the things that we've talked about today too. If it's going to take 9 months, I better be darned excited about that project. It's got to be something that's going to hold my interest. And because I like to build bigger dioramas, I think of subjects that are going to have an underground element. Now, it doesn't have to be underground. What it really is I like to make rooms. So I've thought an awful lot about doing a building where I can have the same effect of building a room and stuff like that. And having separate vignettes, because that's another aspect that I really enjoy about building a story and building that kind of diorama that is really rich in detail, is having separate places that you can go here on the diorama and look and see something, and then go to another place on the diorama and see something different, but they are interrelated. I like that a lot. I saw a great shot the other day of a drawing that somebody did of an observatory. It's online, so you may have even seen it. And it's this really cool drawing of like a building with a dome top, and it's all glass and it's round. The building is round and it's all cut away, and it's just people in like lab coats and so yeah, it's like a research facility. I think that's the coolest thing ever. I think that kind of thing is cool. So it is that kind of a response. I see imagery and I get excited, not only for how it looks, but that's the first thing. Obviously, I see things in proportion. I see things in this, that golden mean. I see things in proportional reality. Once that hits, then I start looking at the details. And that's what excites me. So when I'm looking for subject matter, I'm not thinking of, well, I want something from this time, or I want something from that time, or something like that. I'm thinking of an image that has excited me in the past and I haven't built in the past. Now, I just finished before the project I'm working on currently, a 9-month build for a World War I trench. I had built a World War I trench 5 years prior. So I did go back, because during that first build, I really, really enjoyed it. And some of the research on that diorama was so exciting. I wanted to build another one, but not right away. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to deviate. I wanted to do something different. So after the first World War I diorama, I don't even know what the heck I built, but it was different, right? Different era, something like that. And I think that's one of the things that I've consciously decided to do as I build my dioramas. For two really, I don't know, you might not like the second one, but the first one is I like to do something a little bit different. I like to be challenged. I like to do things I haven't done. I like to do something that I don't necessarily know I can do. Every single one of these projects that I've started and finished is, I don't know that I can do that, or I don't know how, but moreover, I don't know if. I think setting things like that, a little bit beyond. That's why I keep going bigger, you know, because I did that size. I got to go bigger. Well, I'm not going to do that on my next one. It's not going to be as big, but the detail's not going to go away because that is something that I really go for. But I do think I haven't done that before. So I'd like to do that. Now, the second reason I said you might not like is I am literally trying to hit all of the different kind of genres. And that's not passive. That's calculated. It doesn't mean that it's not genuine because I like the things that I'm doing. But when I say genres, I'm thinking World War I, European theater, World War II, European theater, World War II, North African theater, World War II, Southeast Asian theater, Machine and Krieger. These are all dioramas that I've done. And if you think about it, each of those has kind of a niche. There's kind of a group of folks that likes those, that sits there, that wallows in it. That's a terrible term, to wallow in something, but yeah, they're just stuck right there. And they always do World War I, or they always do P-51s, or they always do, you know, or it's trains, or it's, you know. I want to talk to all of them. I honestly do. I'm interested. I'm sincerely interested in getting in there and seeing what it's like to build a World War II Japanese diorama. Can I do any justice to what's already been done? It's not me trying to better someone else. I really don't think in those terms. I am challenging myself. I see people that do things and I am just like, oh my gosh, they've done something so amazing. I am so impressed. I can't imagine how they did it, and I got to do it. That's it. I really like that. So when I'm building in a space, and when I say space, I'm thinking genre. What genre? I'm thinking World War I. I'm thinking European theater. I'm thinking North Africa. Whatever. I stick there. I'm there. I'm in it. You know, and I'm building that. And I gather all this information. And then when I'm done, I just want to close the door on it for a little bit, and I want to move on. And I want sometimes as different as I could possibly get. I did one diorama, Wolfenstein. So that was North Africa, you know, World War II, you know, you see them everywhere. Well, mine was based on a video game. And I literally was thinking, I know that there's people out there that like video games. I wonder if I could do a video game diorama. So it was, again, it's genuine because I think it would be great to do one. And I'd seen other people, because there's like a lot of people that do collecting of, like, you know, superheroes and Marvel and stuff like that. The figures, they're really cool. I love them. I think they're great, but they're way too expensive for me, you know, to do. But then people are out there building these dioramas, and a lot of them are cityscapes and stuff, and they're really, really good. It'll be like an alley or something like that with like a garbage can, and it's done in scale, so you can pose your collectible figures, and they look really cool. You got like Spider-Man up on a wall, and you got like Orc over here, you know, doing all kinds of stuff, and it's a really nice way to display their collectibles. So I saw that. That's like there's a bunch of people that do it, and some really, really great builders that do it. And I'm thinking, well, you know, I would like to go in there and just do this awesome diorama of because I haven't done a cityscape yet, of a cityscape with all these marble figures. And I would do them smaller figures because I don't have the big ones, and I don't want the big ones. And I want to do a big diorama. Just because I see that space, I've never been in it. I don't know those people. I don't know what they talk about. I don't know what's important to them. I don't know what's interesting to them. I don't know all these things. That's a candidate. That's a huge candidate because I'm going someplace where I don't know. And it's not that I don't know how to build a model. It's not that I don't know Marvel Universe and I don't know how to make a garbage can. That's not the point. The people that are in that space think a little different. They have different ideas. Graffiti is huge in these spaces and some amazing graffiti. I've never been able to do graffiti. I think that would be a challenge to figure out how to do graffiti and an airbrush in scale. Well, there you go. That's the perfect way to do it. But to do it well, see, that to me, it's not just building the model. It's certainly not trying to better someone. I got to get that across. And I don't want me to sound like I'm just this guy and I'm like, I can destroy that guy and I can destroy that girl. Or that is not my thinking at all. My thinking is, I don't know how they think about their genre. I don't know how Lord of the Rings people think about gaming and that kind of thing, because that's another huge, huge one that I really want to do someday is Lord of the Rings. I don't know how those people think in that space. I didn't have any idea how people in gaming thought about gaming. And I am really enjoying that because those people have a different language. They speak different things. They talk about different things than World War II modelers, World War I modelers. And it's interesting. It just is. It's how they see the world, how they see their craft, how they paint. They paint completely different than World War II figure painters. Completely different. OSL is huge and these bright colors and big over. See my point? That I think is fun. I really love what I build and I really love the subjects I've done, but I've really tried to change the subject up. I'm going to go back to Japan, meaning I'm going to go back to some Japanese figures. I spent time in Japan for business. I love the culture. I love the figures. I love the different way they did their machinery and their tanks and you know what I mean? The difference is what's appealing. It's not the same. The same is appealing because you get used to it and it's nice and it's great to go back into that warm embrace of I know where I'm at. But there's a different feel when you're out there. You don't know what's coming. You don't know. I mean, if I paint this like this in this space, is somebody going to like it? Or they're going to say, "You don't? What are you doing that for? That's an army painter." You know what I mean? I think there's something. There's value in there. I'm communicating with different people, and I think that is really fun. So I really try to think of things that, first off, just man, I'm jazzed. I see the shape. I see what it looks like. Shape is huge. I see the visuals. It's complex. I love complexity. I'm interested in different genres. I want to be challenged with what I do. I don't necessarily want to do the same thing that I did again because I did it. I'll come back to it, but I'm not interested in besting myself or besting anyone else. I'm interested in learning new things and not just how to build. I want to know the language because each genre has a language, and I love that. It's really exciting, and it's really fun to talk to people that are fluent in that language, and you can start to understand it. So that I hope that's not too much of a spacey answer, not just saying, well, I do this and I'm just not that way. I really think about, and it is a thought. It's a heavy thought on what to do next because I don't know at the beginning how long it's going to take. That's a fact. I don't plan it's going to take 9 months. I don't plan it's going to be 6 months. I don't plan any of that. But I have to consider that it could be that long. And so when I'm thinking of a subject, if I'm not just, man, there's a real personal connection to it in some way. Yeah, it's not a great candidate. It's just not. So I hope that helps, Joyce. It was a wonderful question. I love talking about those things because what gets me motivated about doing, creating, building, I'm hoping can help someone else, get motivated, get creative, get doing something that they've thought, I can't do that. Well, yeah, I don't care about this limiting this or I can't, blah, blah. I'm just saying, make it, I have, make it a specific decision or a choice to go after the stuff that's the hardest and you haven't done it. You're gonna fail. Who cares? It's a piece of plastic. Who cares? You'll know after you did it if you want to do it some more. And I mean, first thing I ever built wasn't good. Did I just drool? First thing I built, it wasn't ever good. You got to get there. You got to get there. And not allowing yourself to get there, not allowing yourself to fail, not allowing yourself to go into something that you're completely out of the woods on. You're like, I don't even know where the heck I'm at here. That's a great feeling sometimes because it teaches you once you get past it that I can get past it the next time. So I hope that helped in answering that question and giving you something that can get past some of those things. So I'm going to go back here. And I want to make sure I got all of our questions because there were some questions that came in. Have a great weekend. Keep on dioraming. Thank you so much, very, very much, Stephen. I know I'm going way long on this, is like an hour 45. I hope it's okay, folks. But I do want to make sure I got all of our questions. I know that we had one up here from Christian. Which I usually, yeah. So that I think we got that one. I hope, please, if you had a question I haven't gotten to it, just give me a heads up and say, hey, look up or whatever. Had relevant YouTube. That's good. Love to be part of that. Good to go. Brush booth. Hey, I think we're okay. I've got all the questions. I want to make sure I got more to talk about, remarkably, but I hope it's okay. So next. Man, this is crazy, isn't it? I'm just taking too long. I wanted to talk about some of the websites I've been visiting lately. This week, by the way, I just did a class and it was fantastic. Oh, thanks, Home for Forge. He's like, why are you still here? No, he didn't say that, but I think it's great. So one of the things I want to talk about is some of the people, some of the websites that I have been visiting lately, and for very specific reasons. And I've had this question a lot. What do you look at? And it's funny because I don't necessarily look at modelers. I know of the sites and I've seen them in the past, but I don't really go and watch a lot of other modelers. I don't know 100% why that is, but I'm not looking for ideas from them. And that's typically what I'm looking for when I'm surfing the internet. I want to get ideas. I want to be inspired. I want to, and it's not to say that those people don't have inspiring stuff. That's not the point. What I really am interested in looking at when I go online is things that I can learn from. Things that are interesting to me, ways forward, filling in those gaps that I don't know. So that's what I'm going to share with you. So this is one of them. And you may know of everybody I show you, may never heard of them, but I'm going to explain these because I really like these folks. Matti Haapoja. One of the things that I think is so important about modeling or doing your craft or just being part of being a creator is having inspiration from all the different facets. And Matti is a great photographer, cinematographer. I jokingly say that when I got into this, I learned from Matti and the two Peters Peter Lindgren and Peter McKinnon. Those were like my three people that I really connected with. I liked how they talk, because how somebody talks. I've talked about that before. I really like that. I like how they sound. I like their energy. I like what they talk about. And so the two Peters and Matti were them for me. And they've been around for a long time. And Matti had, sorry, I got to get him back on there. He had left and to go do some things, and he's back. So I was so thrilled. I had to show you. Matti Haapoja, great cinematographer, and such an important skill. And the thing that I think is so important about some of these other websites I'm going to show you, just two others, is their fringe skills. They're skills that you may not think are necessary, but they are like the details in my diorama. What they do is they fill in the background. You know, they're there. These are skills that I may choose and pick from as I go on this journey of trying to become a better modeler, trying to build a business online. That's a big focus for this year for me. And I'm going to share that journey. And all the things that go into it, there's a lot of peripheral stuff that you don't see out there. Photography, cinematography, lighting, understanding how to edit, how to present yourself and your craft to others. All of that, that's a worthwhile thing to learn. And I really, really like Matti. Matti is one of them. So if you get the chance, look at Matti Haapoja. The other one is Ashley Renders. Now, Ashley Renders is new. She's only been about 8 weeks on YouTube, but she's got a great background on other social media, and she's got a site, Story Selling That Tells, or this Genie Christmas, Story Selling That Sells, and it's that storytelling channel is her deal. But what I'm doing with Ashley's information is trying to become a better storyteller. I have stories in my head. I have stories in my heart. You have stories in you, and you want to get them out. And for me, someone like me, where, I have that shiny object syndrome, like Ghost comes in. I look when Ghost walks in the door. I'm that way. And what I have found is Ashley Render's site, she's helping you, number one, build your story in a format that you can tell it. I have such a problem with that because I have things I want to say. You've seen it on this live stream. Then I just, I go off and that can disrupt the message. I want to learn to be a better storyteller in my dioramas so that I can give a singular message. I can give a message through visual messaging and visual understanding, not having to have words. And that is a sincere goal of mine. I eventually would like to film a short movie using the dioramas as the set. Just like you would do a movie, not me, not showing anything other than this is an actual set. These figures, these characters are in a movie. To do that, I'm trying to invest in that. I'm trying to learn how to write a screenplay, how to write to tell a story, how to, where's the hook, where's, all these things. So I took a 2-day class for hers, and I think it's wonderful. And I think if you're interested in writing, if you're interested in trying to communicate a little bit better, if you're interested in trying to organize those thoughts in your brain, like I have problems with, that's a great place and a wonderful resource. And I would recommend it. Here's something about this thing that I've talked about before. I had to get some water. I was going to dry out. When I find something that connects with me, that connects with how I think or something that I want, pardon me, what I'm able to do is share it with you. You're here because we have a connection. So if I have a connection with somebody else, it might be something you would connect with. That's part of the algorithm that I was talking about earlier in the live stream that I think is pretty wonderful about the Chat GPT. No, we're not going down that road again. Don't worry. It's all good. But that is something that when I give you a recommendation, it may be some of those connections are already there. So you may enjoy some of that I talk to. So that's why I'm doing this. Now, the third one, and I love this one. This is not that. This is Christopher Clarke Antiques. Now, just the, that right there is lovely. I just love the picture. It's adventure and it's the past and it's history, and the colonial part, not so great. But yes, interesting stuff. And what Christopher Clarke Antiques is it is an antique store in the UK that specializes in campaign furniture. Now, there's a whole big thing you can open up with campaign furniture. Not the furniture, but the reason that they had furniture was colonialism. It's a very, very hot topic, and it's an important one I think you should understand. I'm not going to talk to you about it because I'm not smart enough to talk to you about it, but there's a lot of issues with it. That being said, during that time, there was furniture built in a very, very specific way. It was meant to go across climates. Stick with me. This isn't so bad. So campaign furniture was built so that it could travel through different climates and stay together, and also travel and be disassembled, put in basically a trunk, shipped somewhere, and then open back up. Campaign furniture. If you haven't looked it up, this is a great resource, and it's really wonderful to see his stuff. So what he does is he specializes in this type of campaign furniture, and he shows you in his videos how this kind of furniture goes together. Now, why in the heck would I suggest this? History, number one, and the complexity in which people built this furniture. When I'm building, like in my current diorama, the D&D diorama, the mechanisms that are in there, the things that move and turn, and cogs and wheels and wood and all these things, there's a relation to that furniture. Because what it's done is it's people had a serious problem. Furniture, they couldn't get it to stay together. They would build it here or in Europe, okay? And then it would be, and at the time, they used what is called hide glue. And hide glue is made from boiling pelts and animals' hooves and all that kind of stuff. So it's as horrible as you think. But that glue worked wonderfully in the climate that it was originally invented and produced in, okay? When you take hide glue and you apply moisture and heat, like you have in the subtropic regions of India, it releases. The glue virtually comes apart. So the furniture that they were building in Europe, and then they were traveling down to, as they explored and colonialized and visited all these, Southern Hemisphere nations, their furniture started falling apart. So what they did was they came up with ways, two things. Number one, methods of holding that furniture together using brass. You've probably seen this where there's a lot of brass on the corners. There's brass on all the joints, on the drawers and stuff like that, and all this inlaid stuff so everything stayed flush. All that was for this. All of that technology was for that. Okay, that's how it came about. We still see it in a lot of things that we do today. Well, that solving of that massive problem, number one, I think is fascinating. And the solutions that they came up with are fascinating. To take a desk and bundle it all up with all the things in it, books, papers, pens, ink, everything, literally close it all up, ship it off somewhere, open it up, everything's perfect. Okay. That I think is fascinating. And when I'm designing and building my dioramas and stuff, I want it to be fascinating. I don't want it to just be like, You know, I want it, just the structure of it. I want just the woodworking itself. I want you to go look at it. That's neat looking. You know what I mean? And not just, I don't know, not neat like a painting, but neat like a mechanical device, a mechanical something. And that's what we're talking about. This furniture. It is built in such a way that it took a heck of a lot to understand it. And it's like looking at an image that says, here's a chair, all assembled. Here it is, all taken apart. Imagine how that happens, and your brain does that work. So, building fascinating things, giving or getting ideas from things like campaign furniture, like mills, old mills, water mills, and textile mills and stuff like that, with all this moving equipment, all these things, all these amazing things that people thought of, invented to solve a problem, I am fascinated with. And I'm trying to bring that into my dioramas because I want my dioramas to be fascinating. I want you to look at it and go, wow, how do you do that? Not how did that person do it? How do you do it? How do you learn from it? Right? How am I taking something from that diorama and learning from it? So that's why that is such a fun website for me. And those 3 websites, nothing to do with modeling, nothing. Okay. But I think, again, it's helping to round out my views. It's helping to round out the other skills that I need to be a better modeler, to be a better storyteller, to be a better creator. And hopefully some of those things might help you. So that's why I included them. And I was really happy with it. And by the way, the class that I took with Ashley Renders, it's a 2-day class. It was really fun. It was like 4 hours, 5 hours, 6. No, she did an extra day. I didn't get, but really, really neat because she teaches you how to understand first what you're writing for, who you're writing for, and again, structure. And I told her that right from the start. I said, my biggest issue, I think, is structure. I don't know how to write a story. I don't know what even a sentence structure is properly done in a given format or in a given situation, what kind of structure, all that. My English is kaput, but I think she delivers in a nice way. She speaks well. And when I connect with somebody online, I have to understand there's plenty of people out there that are amazing. I don't understand them. The way I hear, interpret, learn, they're just not my gig. Ashley's my gig. I can understand what she's saying. Christopher Clarke, he speaks so well and so eloquently, and he just tells you how these things were built, and he shows it to you, and he demonstrates taking apart and put it together. It's wonderful. I just connect with that person. I can understand what they're saying. Matti Haapoja, he's just great. He's fun to listen to. He's fun to hear talking about. He presents well, and he teaches. These are all teachers, and I'm here to learn. So I just want to say thank you, everybody. My goodness, I can't believe you stuck here this long. These are my patrons, and these are such great people, and I am looking forward to seeing all of you this weekend. Now, this is something that I don't have for YouTube members, but I think that's definitely a group that I want to look at bringing into the Patreon. When I invite someone in, like Scott. Scott's going to be a member, or not a member, but he's going to be invited in this Sunday. I'd love to invite some folks from members. I know we've got some folks from Australia and around the globe, so I just got to be real careful with timing. And so I hope folks have that availability, because I'd love to have you in to some of these live events, because I really enjoy them. I have a wonderful time speaking and getting to know people more and stuff. You may not enjoy it. I'm a whack job, so you may not like it. This is me calm when I'm on the live stream. But yeah, I'm just joking. I hope you do enjoy your day. I am going to go and do some other things. and get ready for Sunday. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I am going to do a demo. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to demo, but I want to do a live demo and I want to show you something that folks have been asking about. And so that's part of what we're going to do on Sunday. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Hey, here's another person that just got in. And what's up, my dudes? Hello, Troy. Thank you so much for coming in. You know, just kind of on the tail end of it. We're gonna, it will replay tomorrow, though, by the way. But I think it was pretty fun. We've been here for 2 hours. I can't believe it. But I would love to hear what you think. And if you have some questions, please if you want to, I'm trying to read and say things. If you want to check out Patreon, please go do it. We have some stuff there. If you're going to be able to make it in for the Patreon group build on Sunday, I can't wait. I hope you can make it. And if you have any more questions on these Q&As, sometimes it lights a fire. Please put those in there. I answer every single one of my comments, and I want to get that information out to you because I love getting questions and I love getting back to you. So thank you very much. I tried to reach your Patreon, but ended up with making 2 of my own. We're going to figure out what that means later on. I can promise you. Oh, maybe you started 2 of your own patrons. That's because you have 2 sites. So now you have 2 Patreon channels. I think that's what you mean, which is pretty cool. Thanks, everybody. This has just been a wonderful time. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed speaking with you. And I hope to speak with some of you on Sunday for our group build. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. It is a football playoff weekend, but I hope you really get a chance to get into the bench, do a little building. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So we will see you. Hope you